Oh, and Adi Purusha Prabhu already chanted, so I'm just gonna start going to the verse. And actually, I'm gonna ask you, Prabhu, if you will kind of pull up the verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchavam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Muhurdayat Nasta Praishwa Badreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevayat Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 83, and I believe we're at the last of these. No, we're starting a new chapter. That's what it is. And we're in the beginning of this chapter. And I think you're going to pull it up. Yes, Prabhu? Okay. Thank you so much. So okay. We're reading text number 8 and then text number 9. Okay, let's see if we can do this. Shri Rukmini Vacha Jaya Marpayatam Udyat Karmukeshu Rajas Ajaya Bhakta Sheikh Haritangri He Renu Ninye Migrendra Iva Bhagavana Javi Yutat Ajavi Yutat Tak Churi Niketa Charu Itsu Mam Marcha Yana. Okay, this is messing this up royally. So I'm just going to go and read the synonyms. Shri Rukmini Uvacha, Shri Rukmini said, Chaidaya to Shushapal, Ma me Arpayitam, in order to offer Udaya, Udyata, holding at the ready, Karmukeshu, who's about bows, Karmukeshu, Rajasu, when the king, Ajaya, invincible, Bata, of soldiers, Shikarita, placed upon the heads, Angrihi, of whose feet, Renhu, the dust, Ninya, he took away, Mrigendraha, a lion, Eva, as if, Baga, Bagam, his share, Aja, of goats, Avi, and sheep, Utat, from a group, Tat, of him, Tree, of the supreme goddess of fortune, Niketa, who is the abode, Charna, the feet, Ashtu, maybe, Mama, my, Achanaya, for the worship. Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. Sri Rukmini said, when all the kings held their bows at the ready to assure that I would be presented to Shushapal, he who puts the dust of his feet on the heads of invincible warriors took me from their midst, as a lion forcibly takes his prey from the midst of goats and sheep. May I always be allowed to worship those feet of Lord Krishna, the goddess of the abode of goddess Shri. This is a short text here, and the purport. Lord Krishna's pastime of kidnapping Rukmini is narrated in detail in chapters 52 through 54 of the Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto. I'll read the next verse, and then this is text 9. I'll just read the verse, Prabhu, if you don't mind. Okay, Sri Satyabhama Vacha. Now Satyabhama is speaking. Okay, I was going to do the synonyms. Okay, Satyabhama said, my father, his heart tormented by his brother's death, accused Krishna of killing him. To remove the stain on his reputation, the Lord defeated the king of the bears and took back the Shamataka jewel, which he then returned to my father. Fearing the consequences of his offense, my father offered me to the Lord, even though I had already been promised to others. Srila Prabhupada's purport. As described in chapter 56 of this canto, King Satyajit had already compromised himself by promising his daughter's hand first to Akura and then again to a number of other suitors. But after the return of the Shamataka jewel, he felt impelled by his shame to offer her to Lord Krishna instead. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, the word prabhave, unto the Lord, answers any doubt as to the propriety of offering Krishna a bride who had already been promised to others. It is perfectly proper to offer him everything one owns and improper to withhold anything from him. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyanagana Shalakaya Jakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrachitam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakant Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, once again, I thank you so very much for being here. So this is the beauty of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. We get to enter into these amazing pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Very intimate pastimes in one sense, because we're going to be hearing about in this chapter about all of the wives of Krishna and how they related to Draupadi, about their experience and how they got married to Krishna. And so this is yeah, it's kind of, I was thinking, Vraj Lila, this is so amazing that you are being blessed, you're being given this grace to be able to enter into this pastime and talk about the wives of Krishna, talk about Draupadi, these very exalted women in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so I'm really, I'm more than honored, absolutely, totally grateful, and grateful to the devotees that's here today, the devotees that have been hearing these pastimes over and over and over again for years and years and years and years. Yeah, there's so many of you that attend these classes because you understand about the glories of hearing. So this is what we want to talk about today, Draupadi, and how she's asking these questions from Rukmini and Satyabhama about their relationship with Krishna. It's amazing because that's what we're all do, right? All the time. We're wanting to hear about Krishna. We're asking questions every Srimad Bhagavatam class because that inner desire to hear about the Lord is a part, it's just who we are. We want to hear, we want to understand more about the personality of Godhead because we eventually want to understand our relationship with the Lord, which the Lord says that each and every one of us is guaranteed a relationship with him, of course, in different ways. And so we learned this from Draupadi. Draupadi, she was a friend to Krishna. And she had very intimate relationship with Krishna because of her five husbands, not only because of them, but because she also developed a relationship with Krishna. And within that relationship with Krishna, she's able to travel with her husbands and be in Krishna's association and hear from Krishna directly. And yet here she is, she's visiting uh, and her husbands are having conversation with the Lord, and she took the opportunity from being in that environment to be able to hear from the wives of Krishna. In these two verses, we're hearing how she wanted to hear from. She will be hearing from Rukmini and Satyabhama. So they're principal queens of Krishna that she will be hearing from throughout this chapter. But these two queens, they're spoken in the Bhagavatam as the first and second wives of Krishna. So they they have a very personal, intimate relationship with Krishna. When sometimes we hear this first and second wives, and the mind, when we hear, oftentimes, if we're not really kind of listening from the heart, then the mind kind of interrupt and interferes with our thinking. And then because of our material conditioning, we may come up with many different kinds of thoughts about whatever it is that we're hearing. So these verses are talking, they're sharing with us about Draupadi and how she wants to hear more about the Lord, even though she has this personal relationship. However, she's really going to listen. She's going to listen to what these queens are going to share with her. And so when we hear this, first and second wives, um, yeah, it might bring up some different kind of thoughts in our minds. However, I remember personally, I lived in a country. Um, Actually, it was during a time when I was um, being engaged in teaching Krishna consciousness, and yeah, I was sent to this country, yeah, to help to establish temples in this particular country. And there were no temples there at the time. In these, actually, we ended up going to several different countries, but there were no temples. However, I remember in one place where we were, the the men in this place were allowed, to have seven wives. This was a part of the culture. And me being a curious person, um, I wanted to understand more about that part of the culture. So I went to visit, some of the communities just to understand more. And because it also helped with our being able to teach others, to help others, right? Um, and so in that culture, it was normal to have seven wives, and there was always a first wife, and there was always a second wife and a third wife, and like that. And each one had a home. And if we wanted to learn anything about that male, we would go to the wives, and specifically, we would go to the first wife. So this is not so crazy, to hear this. It's kind of happening even in this world, and happening present day. This was, although for me it was maybe 30 or so years ago. Um, I'm sure it's still happening. So anyway, here's Draupadi, and she wants to hear. So why is Draupadi gonna ask these questions? Why would she be so, why would she want to hear from these queens when she herself have a personal relationship with the Lord? Why is that? Well, our dear Vishaka Devi, who we know is a writer and very prolific de- devotee, always been since she came to meet Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. She wrote an article, and I somehow found this article, and I thought it was just so wonderful to hear. why Draupadi wanted to hear from Rukmini and Satyabhama. And of course, there is some explanation that Draupadi wanted to hear about, Krishna's characteristics, and she wanted to learn more about how these women, how these queens um, were able to get Krishna as their husband. Krishna is, Supreme Lord, and what their relationship is like. She wanted to understand all of this, as we are, all of us, and the requirement for this, to be able to understand what these queens will share with Draupadi, is because Draupadi had this desire to hear. She really wanted to hear. She wanted to hear more about Krishna, even though, as I said, she had that relationship with him. She just want to hear. So we know, as we hear about Krishna, the more we hear about Krishna, the more we want to hear about Krishna, the more we want to hear about Krishna. And Krishna means pastimes. Krishna means associates. Krishna means activities. Krishna means hearing all these. I mean, it's unlimited what we can hear about Krishna. So Draupadi is a wife. So she wants to hear from another wife. She has husbands. She wants to understand more about how to relate to those husbands. So Vishaka, in this article, it's so nice what she wrote. She says, the hearing is a righteous activity, hearing, just to be able to hear. And when we hear without ulterior motives, when the desire, it's not, we're not hearing because we just want to be entertained. We're not hearing because we want to hear about some popular situation that's happening, in the world. We now want to hear just because Krishna is, opulent or influential, or any of those things that are even related to this world. We as devotees, aspiring devotees, at least for myself, an aspiring devotee, I want to hear, because when I hear about Krishna, I experience joy. I sincerely experience happiness hearing about Krishna. So Draupadi's like that. She wants to hear more and wants to hear more. And we know Prabhupada has told us in the Bhagavad Gita about the glories of hearing. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, this is now from Vishaka's article. I like to reference those people that I hear from, those devotees that I hear from, because each devotee, that gave their lives, to the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially those that I've heard from Srila Prabhupada, is so very glorious, to hear from them, to really listen to what they say. So as I was listening to Vishaka on paper, in her writing, this is what she was explaining to us. She says that in the Bhagavad Gita, I read some of the achievements that devotees could look forward to when they heard properly from about Krishna. So to hear properly from Krishna means to genuinely listen, genuinely listen. Draupadi was prepared. She left that association of being with Krishna personally with her husband to just go and listen to the wives. So what is the difference between hearing and listening? So we hear so much in our Bhagavatam about hearing, the importance of hearing, and we understand, yes, we all need to hear. Every day we need to hear about the Lord. However, sometimes we can hear, we hear just from the ear, and it may just pass through from one ear to the other, right? I know I heard like that for many years, and I still hear like that. However, I'm becoming more conscious and more aware about really listening from my heart, listening with the heart, listening to hear with the heart. I'm trying to hear so that and listen, because it will connect with my soul when I really, really genuinely listen. And it's important to understand, what are we listening for? So when I heard about Krishna and the queens, I was like, wow, what do I want to hear about that? What is it? What am I looking for? What am I trying to hear? Specifically in this pastime, with Draupadi and speaking to these queens. Draupadi's trying to hear about something. She's listening attentively for some reason. So what am I listening for? So that's important for me to be able to know why I want to hear about Krishna. What is it that I want to hear about Krishna? What am I attentively going to listen to? And so when we listen, it is not just, you know, for information. It's not just because of the knowledge that we're going to receive. We listen because we really want to connect in the heart. We want to connect with the Lord in the heart, to direct us, to help us, to awaken that propensity that we have to love, to genuinely love. And so when we genuinely love, we can then appreciate and understand the relationship in a very deep way. So here's Draupadi listening. So back to Vishaka, where she's explaining what happens when we really listen, when we properly listen. We're hearing and we're properly listening, that we become free from lamentation. This is all from the Bhagavad Gita, that we become tolerant and undisturbed, that we become resolute in our purpose, that we become transcendental to the three modes of material nature, that we become peaceful and happy, that we attain love of Krishna. So Draupadi loves Krishna. Uh, she's known for her love for Krishna, her devotion to Krishna. Yet she's trying to hear more. She's trying to hear more about Rukmini, from Rukmini, about how Rukmini met Krishna. Share with me the details about that, right? She want to really get deeper with hearing these intimate pastimes of Rukmini with Krishna. And then Vishaka gives she's done her research so well about the reason why we want to hear, which helps us to understand why Draupadi is hearing about Krishna, because that's a value of a devotee, that the value of a devotee is one of the values of a devotee is to be able to hear about the pastimes of the Lord, to hear about the activities about the Lord. And then Vishaka continues here. She gives many different quotes from the Bhagavad Gita, but one that I thought was really nice is that when we hear, we become joyful. When we hear about Krishna, we become joyful. I was having a conversation with a devotee the other day, and we're talking about Krishna, because that's what devotees do generally. Not all the time. Sometimes we have relationships where we just want to talk about Krishna. So I have this relationship where one devotee, whenever we speak, we're speaking about Krishna. And of course, we're also lamenting about the fact that we're not, so connected to Krishna. So she was going through one of those days of lamentation, thinking, I hear about Krishna all the time, but I just don't feel so connected. And she was saying, I just want to experience some joy. I want to, I want to, I want to understand how to have joy in my desire to hear about Krishna, my desire to serve Krishna. I want to experience some joy every day. So, so we were talking about that. Well, what brings you joy? Let's talk about that. Let's try to go deeper. What is it that brings you joy? Um, and so certainly one of the things that brings us joy is to hear about Krishna. That Krishna explains that. This is in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says that we will become joyful when we hear about him, just to hear about him. And then Vishaka goes on to say that this hearing destroys the darkness of ignorance and let us understand Krishna's glories. So let's go to hear the glories from Rukmini and Satyabhama, these amazing queens of the Lord, right? These dedicated queens. So we know this whole, 2 chapters or 3 chapters is dedicated in a 10th canto to hear Rukmini's pastimes. Why is that? Just so many, so much in the Bhagavatam that we can read about Rukmini. We hear about how Rukmini loved Krishna so much from the time she was, she's a young girl. I believe she's like 16 years old or something like that. And she just want to marry Krishna. That's all that's on her mind, is to be with Krishna. And so we know she wrote Krishna this letter because she never saw Krishna. She only heard about Krishna. So that deep love that Rukmini had for Krishna is understood because of, the fact that she never saw him. Sometimes we think we need to see someone, to love them, or sometimes even as people that are kind of sometimes not fully accepting bhakti, they may have some questions. Well, you can't really see God, you know. And we can learn from Rukmini's pastime that we don't have to be able to see God to love God. Just by hearing about the Lord, just by hearing about Krishna, just by hearing about how Draupadi and Rukmini and Satyabhama, how they all came together with Krishna, just hearing their stories, that will awaken the love that we actually have lying dormant in our hearts for Krishna. And so here's Rukmini. She's hearing, she's sharing with Draupadi about her whole life story. Well, not her whole life story, because there's so much to Rukmini, as we said, right? But she's gonna share with Draupadi the pastimes, the pastime with her that made her want to connect with Krishna, want to be with Krishna, want to express that love for Krishna. And if we read these chapters, I believe it's 52 through 54, as stated in this in this verse, in the 8th verse. If we read that pastime, it, it it will certainly bring joy to our hearts just to hear how this young woman is just having such deep affect, such deep love for the Supreme Lord, just by hearing about him. And so many of us are like that. We're developing this love. We're awakening this love for Krishna. I'm not saying I am, but many of the devotees are. They're awakening this love for Krishna to the mercy, of course, of the spiritual master. It's by Srila Prabhupada's mercy that we even have any of this knowledge to understand. But as this knowledge as this knowledge becomes deep in our hearts, as we listen, and this knowledge becomes so deep in our hearts, then that love starts awakening. And then we start experiencing this amazing relationship that we have with the Supreme Lord. So now we may not really truly understand that because, at least I may not truly understand that because I'm still covered by some of the modes of material nature in some ways. And I'm still, conditioned, very much conditioned to the things of this world in so many ways. However, because of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnava devotees, the devotees of the Lord, I get this amazing opportunity beyond what I can understand to hear about these great queens and to hear about their relationship, with the Supreme Lord, to hear about Rukmini and just this deep love that she had, this deep devotion for Krishna. And so, as I was saying, this is what we're all endeavoring to develop devotion for Krishna. This is the whole purpose of our lives um, is to be able to serve the Lord. Rukmini only wanted to serve the Lord. I believe it says here in this verse that she prays, "May I always be allowed to worship those feet of Lord Krishna, the abode of Goddess Shri." And so, we know, like, this is just kind of a little bit on the side. We know Rukmini is not just an ordinary person. She's actually Lakshmi Devi, and she was requested by Lord Brahma to act in this role. But why? What was the reason for all this? In Bhagavatam, everything has an answer. Everything has a why answer. And so because Krishna wanted to establish Dharma, he wanted to show us, he wanted to teach us what it's like to be in this ashram, this ashram, this Grihastha ashram, and what 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 it takes to be in this grihastha ashram from the Lord's point of view, right? And so, of course, we can only learn from these personalities that are exemplifying this mood, like Rukmini, of this deep love and devotion for the Lord. And so, similarly, in our lives, in our grihastha life, this is the mood that we're all to have, whether we're playing the role of so-called husband or so-called wife in this life. It's important to know that the purpose of this relationship is ultimately to love the Supreme Lord, to have devotion for the Supreme Lord, to be able to understand that the Lord is everything. Rukmini, she knew Krishna was everything to her. Not She didn't want anything else, no matter her father, her family wanted her to marry somebody else. She said, no, I will only marry Krishna, only marry Krishna. So this is the depth of this kind of love. And as grihastas, this is also what's being asked of us to for husband and wife to develop such moods, this mood of such loving devotion to the Lord. And when we do that, as we develop more and more of this emotion, the more and more of this love for Krishna in our relationships, we start experiencing joy. This is guaranteed. In our relationships, we will start becoming more joyful. To the degree that we develop this love for Krishna, to that degree in our own personal relationships, we will have that love for Krishna. And then in the second verse, which is really Satyabhama's story, Satyabhama, she tells her story, and we hear the story, and it's such a beautiful story, right? Satyabhama, she she's just not an ordinary queen, right? We understand that from she was young. She was like a martial artist. She was kind of, she had a kind of different kind of personality than Rukmini. Rukmini is like, anyway, she's portrayed as being this soft and sweet, loving, person. And Satyabhama is also loving and sweet, but a different personality, a different kind of way that she exemplified, her love for Krishna. So Satyabhama is known for, fighting with Krishna, fighting for Krishna, fighting with Krishna. She is known, for her devotion to Krishna as kind of like maybe like a mood of a chacha in one sense, but just that she's not just like an ordinary person. And Krishna respected her for that. Krishna respected her for her nature and who she was. And, he did there's so many beautiful pastimes of what he did for Satyabhama, just to show how much he loved her. So these pastimes, again, they help us. They help us to remember that we're individuals. We have different natures. At the same time, with our different natures, the ultimate goal is to be able to hear about the Lord so we can love the Lord, so we can appreciate the relationships that we could have, or the relationship that we could have with the Lord. So here Draupadi is a friend, right? And Rukmini and Satyabhama, they're playing the roles. They're playing these roles of being wives, and they're teaching us what it means to be the wife of Krishna. What does that mean for them? And in both cases, the magic of those relationships were, as they're relating it to Draupadi, is based on, in Rukmini's case, she was enamored, or maybe just, I don't know, in love with how Krishna captured her. Just the way Krishna did it, It's just like, so it's explained in this verse, and Krishna was like a lion. And for Rukmini, she was just carried away. And yeah, so for Rukmini, that was something that was very wonderful. And when we hear about this pastime and we hear the wonders of it, it also opens our heart to the love that Rukmini has for Krishna, or at least it's supposed to. It's supposed to help us to understand more about that love. And so I'm seeing the time. I'm it's so much to speak about in these pastimes. The main thing is, what are we learning from these queens? What is it exactly that? Why is Draupadi hearing from them? And what are we to learn from them in their relationship with Krishna? And just to hear their story and maybe look at ourselves and see, what is my story with Krishna? How did I want, why do I want to love Krishna? Okay, I'm going to stop there, Bhima. I see your hand. Haribol.
Bhima, the king of bears.
He's right on time.
Look for the bare necessities, Mother's Nature's recipes. Forget about your troubles and your pride. Right? That's what the bears live like. And I'll tell you, just as in Jungle Book, where that song came from, where everyone's alive and everyone has a personality and everything is an adventure, and that adventure often ends up in a romantic liaison. What is wonderful, Raja Lila, and you're named appropriately, is the nectar that you just kind of were pouring, and it was my cup sort of runneth over. I can't even keep up with all this. But what's great about it is that we see that everything that we seek in this world, these diversions, I want a little excitement here, I want a little music here, I want a little romance here, but that it's all here in the Lila. And the deeper we fall into that Lila, the less we seek these things in this world. And we're able to let go and then just become enmeshed and immersed and mystified by Krishna's Leela, not only 5,000 years ago, but the Leela that spills from your lips into this class. That you're so excited. It's like you're a teenage girl, a teeny bopper, speaking about her iconic star, rock star, whose name is Krishna. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu Haribol. I was thinking, wow, I would love to be there. I would love to be there and hear. Then I realized, but you are there, and you are hearing Satyabhama and Rukmini. You are hearing about Rukmini's selfless love for Krishna, and you are hearing about Satyabhama, and you are hearing about Draupadi and how Draupadi was not envious and she wanted to hear more about Krishna. So yeah, so it's just joyful hearing. I see two other hands. Okay, Prabhu. Nanta Bihari. Okay.
Adi Purusha Prabhu has his hand up.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful to hear how delighted you are to explain. You made really good points about how hearing about Krishna, then the love is awakened, and we have a desire to serve, and how there's that appetite to hear. There's a verse that says that if what we're doing does not provoke an attraction for hearing about Krishna, then our work is a useless labor. So obviously you must be doing some wonderful service to be so eager to hear and to talk about this. And everybody's different. One thing about these two verses, each of these queens came to Krishna in a quite a different way. All of us are coming to Krishna and in a unique way. One, Rukmini, Prabhupada said, in Krishna book, it says that Krishna swooped in there and everybody wanted to marry Rukmini, and he just picked her up and put her on the chariot and drove away. But then when they were trying to do the play in Dallas, they said, Prabhupada, is it okay if a devotee can pick up a Mataji and put her on the chariot in the play, right in the temple, touching the woman's body? And Prabhupada said, Krishna did not pick up Rukmini and put her on the chariot, even though it says it in the Krishna book. He said, Rukmini jumped on the chariot, and Rukmini was driving the chariot, and Krishna was in the back shooting the arrows. So that's one way that somebody comes to Krishna, that Krishna comes and captures you. And then the other way that's described today is that the father gave his daughter, which is very radical in our culture, the whole idea of a father giving away his daughter like a piece of furniture, you know. It's like, what? He gave his daughter? You know, nobody in this time even wants their father to pick out the husband, right? But at least they hope the father will approve of the husband that the wife feels, the girl feels attracted to. But in this case, the father gave his daughter to Krishna, and the culture explains that the father is caring for the daughter in every way, providing food, providing protection, providing instruction. And then there's such a trusting relationship that the girl has with her father that she allows him to continue his care for her by choosing an appropriate husband and say, please now go into the care of this person. You know, and who could think of a better person for the father to give his daughter to the other person's care than Krishna. So these one queen was captured and jumped on the chariot, and the other one was actually given. And we still have the when they have the wedding, usually the father walks down the aisle with the daughter, right, and gives the bride away. You know, so
Yes.
not that she's a piece of furniture, but she's a person in his care. She has complete trust in the father's judgment, and he's continuing his care for her by indicating somebody to take care of her in the next phase of her life. Anyway, I was praying to Prabhupada what to say. I don't have anything to say, but that's what came out. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu, as always. Your sharing is always merciful and grace, and gives me this so much grace. You have this mood of having so much knowledge, so much awareness of the Lord. And whenever you share, for me personally, I just revel at hearing from you. I just like, oh, Adipusha Prabhu, he has this.
It's not coming from me. I'm praying to
I
Prabhupada
understand
what to
that.
say. Don't
Well,
think that. I give the credit where it's due. We accept your appreciation, but we say, oh, glories to Srila
I
Prabhupada.
was actually whispering in Adi's ears through a microphone, telling him to say it was me. So, Brother Lila, if you want to praise Adi, just go through me, okay?
There you
Well,
go.
I'm just grateful, Bhima, that Krishna and Srila Prabhupada has empowered him to be able to share from his heart, because it touches my heart when I listen to you. So yes, there's no way we can take Srila Prabhupada out of the picture. Absolutely.
I'm learning so
Adi,
much.
Adi is a heart on two legs. He literally is a waddling heart on two legs. It's
Absolutely.
heart made out of pudding.
Yes. And you know what's glorious about this devotee is that he's consistent. He's consistent.
Hare Krishna.
Radhe, Radhe. Hare Krishna.
Adipusha Prabhu's nickname, one of many, is devotional service machine. He's
The
he's Go
devotees call
ahead.
me Adikashipu.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. And you know, something that Adipurusha Prabhu, that this experience of a father giving a daughter and the daughter wanting to marry somebody else, in the case of Satyabhama, that still goes on now in certain cultures. Oh, it's not. Sometimes people think these stories are mythical, they're not real. Well, actually, if we just kind of expand even in this world to some of the things that we read in the Krishna book, we'll see that they're still going on now.
The point is, Krishna uses different means to bring us to him.
Yes.
Everybody's story is a little different.
Mm, yes. I think there's a wonderful in the chat from Madan Gopal Prabhu. Day or night, inside or outside, in the land or in the sky, Adipurusha Prabhu serves the Lord. So I'm not the only one. And Madan Gopal Prabhu, thank you so very much. Somebody else.
We should make a song out of this. Day or night, inside or outside. Adipusha
Yes,
Prabhu, please come up with a tune. We need a song.
yes. You
Well, you
know
know,
that.
different degrees of response to my endeavor to do service. When I was managing at New Vrindavan, they used to say, we have 4 miseries, Adhyatmik, Adhidhavik, Adhibodhik, and Adhipurusha. So what we do is not always pleasing, but we're trying to serve Krishna. So Krishna's so wonderful that he accepts our service. Okay, we have time to.
I want to read one more thing here for one more comment. I really like and appreciate that we can give all of our thoughts, cares, and concerns to Krishna, especially while chanting. Yes. And we can really develop our relationship with Krishna over time by hearing about Krishna's Leelas. Yes. Especially this pastime is amazing. There's so much about Satyabhama. I mean, and so many lessons. I think Bhima has his hand up. Prabhu.
His hand is
Oh,
always.
yeah, I just interject. I'm the kid who jumps up in class and doesn't allow anybody else to speak.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Afterglow,
anyway.
Bhima Prabhu. During
Yes,
the afterglow, please.
Jai.
Thank you, Vraj and Lila
Perfect.
Devi. Wonderful class.
Thank you.
Speed to our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain true devotional service. I bow down to those who create all our miracles. By His grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with the love. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From His scattered frame elements, higher ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures saying His character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the lonely, master of the Oh, master, this is shade of the sea. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Prabhupada ki.
Thank you, Johnny Tai Prabhu. Thank you, Temple Room. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. Vraj, Lila, Devi, you have a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If someone would like to share something, that'll be wonderful. I saw your beautiful son a few minutes ago. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Ram was taking darshan. Bhima Prabhu, please come and glorify Krishna. Nice hoodie.
I would rather hear from Vraj Lila. The Satyabhama is
Oh, we lost Bhima.
Oh,
Adipusha Prabhu. Oh, hold on. Narottam Nita has his hand up. Narottam Nita Prabhu, please.
Bandhavasya, I just wanted to say one thing that as Krishna Rukmini pastime is like is also related to like Kshatriyas in the sense that when uh when so when a woman approaches a Kshatriya, I don't know how to properly say it. That is Kshatriya's duty to protect her and accept her. So like that's also exhibited by Pandavas too in their pastimes. But I just wanted to make that statement that like how we can also see that Krishna is acting like a Kshatriya during the Krishna Rukmini pastimes as well. So I just wanted to make that comment. That's a Bible.
yeah. That's a beautiful comment, Narottam Prabhu, Narottam Nitai. Yes, thank you. Certainly, especially when he both times, yeah, he just took Rukmini away on the chariot, and then with Satyabhama, right? He got into he went back to get the jewel from Jambavan, the Shamataka jewel. So he got in a fight. So yeah, yeah, certainly he exhibited those characteristics. Thank you.
It's a wonderful question that Rukmini is asking. How did you marry Krishna? How did you marry Krishna? It's the same question as how did you become a devotee? How did you become a devotee? How did Krishna beat you down? Did Krishna kidnap you? And yeah, that's my favorite
Yeah.
question to ask a devotee. How did you become a devotee? Adipusha Prabhu will say, I just became a devotee this morning. I joined the movement every day. It's not that I became a devotee in 19 something. No, we join every day. You know, we wake up. All right, am I a devotee today or not?
Mm.
Did I capture the mood properly, Adipusha Prabhu?
Yeah, it's a moment by moment thing. It's like walking a tightrope. Even if you've walked for 10 miles, the step that you're taking right now is very important. Well, should we ask Roger Lila how she got married?
Yeah. How did you meet Akavira? Did they kidnap you?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but you know what was it? What's interesting? I was thinking of his Holiness Japataka Maharaj, and he wrote a book called "Am I a devotee or Am I a devotee or a demon?" And so, when I think of Adipurusha Prabhu, his humility brings me to that book. Am I a devotee or a demon? Am I a devotee or a demon? So, yeah. So when you said that, Prabhu, I was thinking, am I really a devotee? I'm trying to be a devotee. I appreciate the real devotees so much. But yes, Ekavira Prabhu and I, it was definitely a form of him kidnapping me because and it's quite a story. When I met Ekavira Prabhu, I was wearing a white sari, which meant that I had no desire to be in a relationship at the time. And my spiritual master, who was always very how can I say, he was always very straightforward with me and always helping me beyond what I could understand. He told me one day, he said, your attitude is not the best attitude to have. You probably need to have a mate. And I was like, what? No. He was like, you do. You need to have a mate. You need a companion because yeah, I was kind of how do you say, I was a little bit belligerent woman, maybe a little bit kind of in that mood of Satyabhama. I thought I could be independent and all that. So then Ekavir with his gentle and kind self showed up. And I was like, okay, maybe this will work. And so we've been married now over 30 years. And I can only say it's because of his gentle and kind nature. Yeah, yeah, while we are still married.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how dedicated he is to our spiritual master and how eager he is to hear about Krishna, how eager he is to devote his life to Krishna. I don't think we would be together if he didn't have those qualities. And so those are the qualities, yeah, that as grihastas, we need to exemplify this mood of having Krishna in the center of our relationship.
Nice. Thank you. Please tell Akavira Prabhu that we love him. We
It
see
will.
that he empowered you to give this class in his
Yes.
absence. We can see the empowerment coming from him.
Yeah, I am grateful. And for the benefit of some of the single ladies and the ladies that have had, challenging relationships, I just want you to know it's not that Ikaru is perfect. However, we have learned to communicate, and which is most important. And we have learned how to understand what our expectations may be of each other, and to not think that we will meet each other's expectations all the time. So it's very important to have that understanding in relationship. Men.
Thank you.
So much. I really liked what you said about, I don't think this is exactly what you said, but something to the fact that we have a right or privilege to hear, and what happens when we hear. And one of the things that you mentioned was becoming peaceful. And when I heard the story of the queens first time not too long ago, or Krishna marrying thousands of wives, I had such a conflict with this story where, okay, I think I found God, but he's married to all these women. I don't know how to understand it. And you also mentioned, when you said power of hearing the Leelas and what that does. I sort of set that aside, like, okay, I don't understand this. It really kind of brought up so many conflicts within my mind. And as I heard more and more, as I hear more and more stories of Krishna, I'm at a point where I don't really have a issue with it. And because I think at the same time, the conflict I had was I was trying to figure out, well, this is not real. This is just a story, a mythology, or maybe something that happened so long ago, so far away that I just don't understand how to understand it or relate to it. But I think something happened, as I just hear more stories about Krishna, where the concept of idea of what's real has changed, I believe. And what is ultimately real is not what I think it is, where I'm trying to understand things with the frame of reference that I'm bringing just to these stories, and that ultimate reality is in the spiritual world. And I was really happy to hear when you said, well, I want to be there. I want to be in these stories. But you said, oh, but I am there. I am hearing. So that was really great to hear, because, and I still don't understand what that means. I am there when we hear these stories, but something about a state of my mind, somehow I could feel that it's sort of transitioning to what is real is not really, that I could actually hear these stories and not just imagine, but maybe feel that it's the most real thing there is. And that could bring us peace. Really like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability and your transparency. And thank you, Min, for being aware that you are now connecting more with your spiritual intelligence as opposed to your material intelligence, because you're very intelligent. And yeah, the more we hear these pastimes, the more our material intelligence will be minimized. And we will start accessing our spiritual intelligence, which I hear you're doing. And I'm very happy. You brought me joy just to hear you speak today. Thank you.
Yeah, such an inspiring testimony, Min. Thank you. Adipusha Prabhu, how is your material intelligence? Is it reduced? What's 2 plus 2? You still remember? No. Be careful. Yeah. Spiritual intelligence will kick in. 2 plus 2 is 5. Okay, I'm rambling on. Thank you, Vraj, Lila. Wonderful class. Please bow down to Ekavira Prabhu for us. For me,
Well,
we want to be like him.
thank
And
you.
we're going to ask Mitravinda Devi Dasi to unmute herself and say Hare Krishna to finish the yagya for today. Mitravinda Devi, please.
Hare Krishna, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm quite honored to hear Mother Rajalila and to see her again and to listen to her wisdom of bhakti through experiences and education and realization. I love her so much. I've known her for many years. It's wonderful to be here for the first time. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Wow.
you, Mitravinda Devi.
Please come back, Mitra. This is one of I find, the best forums to hear from amazing devotees, amazing, knowledgeable, wonderful, kind, generous devotees. Please keep coming back.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you. Okay. Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rajalila and Ekavira Prabhu's ki jai, everyone in this call ki jai. Hare Krishna. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Hare